Late-night delivery drivers learn a secret the rest of us never have to. The porch light tells you everything, and a dark one on a paid order is a sentence with a knife in it. Wrong house, pizza boy. Delivery fee goes to yus tonight. Drop the bag and the tips. The voice came from under a dead bulb. Ezra Holland was 3 steps up the porch. The bag was level in his left hand, warm through the nylon, 2 large pies, and a soda he'd already paid attention to. A shape came off the door frame fast. Another one slid along the rail, low, quiet, cutting off the way back down. Knox Tidwell stepped into the little bit of streetlight. 26 years old, shaved head, gym shorts in November, arms out like he was already being filmed. He was being filmed. His phone sat propped on the mailbox, red dot burning. You deaf? Bag down, tips out. Bodie Lancaster laughed from the rail. It was not a real laugh. It was the sound a man makes when his friend laughs first. Understand what you are watching. This porch was picked. The bulb was not burned out. It was unscrewed a quarter turn, which takes 4 seconds and a step stool. The order was paid in the app, tip included, so the driver would come all the way up instead of calling from the curb. 6 other drivers had climbed these kinds of steps in the last 2 weeks. 6 other drivers had backed down them with nothing. That is the part that should make you angry. Not the shouting, the rehearsal. Ezra did not back down the steps. He stepped down and across, one motion, off the line, so smooth it looked like he'd slipped. He hadn't. When his foot landed, Knox's body was between him and Bodie's whole flank was suddenly aimed at his own friend's back. The bag never tilted. The soda never sloshed. Ezra's chin stayed level, and his throat, right there, above the collar of the delivery jacket, showed a pulse that did not change speed at all. The geometry of the ambush died right there. Neither of them noticed. Ezra set the bag on the rail, gently, like a man setting down a sleeping cat. Orders paid, he said. Porch lights out. Walk away. They laughed, both of them this time. You, watching the angles, did not. Because there is a small black camera clipped to the chest of that delivery jacket, and it has been recording since he put the car in park. And because in 11 days a judge is going to say 2 names out loud in a courtroom, and one of the men on this porch is going to find out that the softest guy on the street was the one he should have been afraid of since spring. But before we continue, subscribe now and tell us in the comments where you are watching from and what time you saw this video. Tonight's story is one you will never forget. Ezra Holland is 33. Before the delivery jacket, there was a different uniform, Marine Raider, the quiet end of the Corps, the part that does not put things on the internet. He did 7 years of nights that started at 2 in the morning and ended in places he still does not name at parties. Now he does 2 other kinds of nights. Nursing school, 2nd year, pharmacology on Tuesdays, and 5 shifts a week at Luca's Slice House, because tuition does not care about your DD 214. And one more thing, the thing this whole story stands on. For 14 days, Ezra had been keeping a log. 6 drivers, 4 streets, dates, times, order values, porch light status. A gym bag left behind at hit number 3, cheap, blue. a brand you can buy at any big box store. He had a spreadsheet on his laptop and a second copy in a spiral notebook in the glove box. Because he did not trust one copy of anything, he was building a case, airtight, beautiful, slow. Remember that word, slow. Back at the counter that night, Luca Marchetti was pulling a pie out at exactly the second it needed to come out, the way he had for 31 years. 54, forearms like bridge cable. Flower on his watch band. "You're late," Luca said. Porch was dark on Kessler. Luca stopped moving. Dark how? Dark like the other 6. "They touch you?" "They tried to get me to hand them the bag." Luca put the peel down. "And?" "Ezra took a paper cup and filled it with ice. And I put it on the rail and told them to leave." "That's it?" "That's it." It was not it, and Luca knew it was not it. And that was the first crack in a friendship that had lasted 4 years. But the phone rang and the phone kept ringing, and the crack got covered up with pepperoni. The next hit came 2 nights later. It was not Ezra. His name was Dante. He was 19, and it was his 4th shift. 2 streets over, apartment lobby, a paid order to a unit number that did not exist. They took the food. They took $41 in cash tips out of his jacket, and Knox counted it out loud on camera. 11, 22, 33, 41. He fanned the bills at the lens. "Delivery fee, baby." Dante stood there with his empty hands out and his voice going high. That clip went up on a burner account at 12:40 in the morning with a caption about free food speedrun. By 6 a.m., it had 90,000 views. Here is what Knox did not check. Bodie is in frame for exactly 2 seconds at the left edge, and on his chest is a hoodie, and on that hoodie is a logo. Iron Grade Kickboxing, their own gym. Big white letters, unmistakable, in focus. By 7 a.m., the gym's page had been tagged 406 times. By 9, the owner had pinned a statement at the top of the page. 11 words. "Not our members. If they are, they won't be." Knox saw it in bed on his phone and made a sound like a kettle. "Take the hoodie off next time," he told Bodie. "You said the hood was fine. Take the hoodie off." Bodie looked over his shoulder. There was nobody behind him. He looked anyway. He always did. The Luca's group chat woke up like a fire alarm. You have to understand what that chat is in a city like this. Luca started it in 2019, so drivers could warn each other about a dog on 9th Street. It has 58 people in it now. Drivers from 3 pizzerias, 2 dispatchers, a tow guy, 4 nurses who work the late ER and order at 3 a.m., a retired mail carrier who knows every address on the East Side by the sound of its screen door. It is not a chat. It is infrastructure. At 9:14 a.m., it exploded. "That's Dante. That's the lobby on Prather. 3rd one this month. I'm not doing East Side after dark. I'm sorry. I've got a kid. Same. 6 drivers refused East Side runs by lunch. Luca ate the delivery times, ate the 1-star reviews, ate $240 in refunds in a single Thursday. He did not complain once. He just cooked faster and drove 3 of the orders himself in an apron. And Ezra? Ezra opened a new column in the spreadsheet. He labeled it Interval Days. He sat in the parking lot behind the shop, with his laptop on the passenger seat, pharmacology flashcards balanced on one knee, incident log on the other, and he was genuinely, honestly proud of the pattern he was seeing. Every 4 days. Radius under a mile. Always a dark porch. Always a paid order with a good tip. He had it. He almost had it. And while he had it, driver number 8 got hit on a Tuesday. Say that plainly. Because the story is not going to be kind about this part. A man got jumped on a porch because another man wanted a cleaner spreadsheet. Ezra Holland was building an airtight case, and the price of airtight was somebody else's bad night. He knew it, too. That is the worst part. He wrote the 8th incident into the log at 1:52 a.m. And his handwriting was fine, and his pulse was fine, and something in his chest was not. Driver 8 was Marcus, 51. Works 2 jobs, drives a Corolla with a dash cam his daughter installed because she worries. They shoved him off a step. He landed on his hip. They took a chicken parm and $19. Ezra took the police report call at the shop because Luca was on the phone with a landlord. "Sir, we'll add it to the file," the officer said. "There's a pattern. 8 incidents. Same radius. Kids and cold pizza, man. I hear you. We're stretched thin. I have dates and times. Email 'em in." Click. Now here's a small thing that mattered more than anybody guessed. Across town that same week, a news cameraman had run a 3-minute segment about a different department, ignoring a different pattern, and it had done what those segments do. Every precinct in the city got the same memo about responsiveness to community reporting. Nobody says the real reason out loud. The real reason is that nobody wants to be the next 3-minute segment. So on the east side, on nights, a sergeant named Ola Vance started actually reading the emails. She'd been on the job 19 years. She ate at Luca's twice a week and had been in that group chat since 2021 because Luca added her without asking. She read 41 forwarded messages on a Wednesday and printed 2 of them. She did not call anybody yet. Hold that thought. Knox and Bodie got bored. That is the thing about a game like this. It runs out of dopamine. Waiting for a random dark porch to line up with a random delivery is slow. And Knox Tidwell is not a patient man. Knox Tidwell is a man who watches his own knockout clips before bed. So he upgraded. "Why are we waiting for orders?" he said. "When we can make orders." They started calling them in themselves. Burner number, fake name, a house they'd already scouted, a rental with a for lease sign, a place with a dead bulb, a porch with a hedge on one side. They ordered large pies with a 20% tip in the app, so the driver would come all the way up smiling. Knox thought this was the smartest thing anyone had ever done. Sit with that. He took a crime with no evidence and gave it a phone number, a timestamp, an address history, and a payment method. He built himself a paper trail and thought it was a combo. "You're a genius," Bodie said. "I know." Bodie looked over his shoulder. The fake orders showed up in Ezra's map like flares. He stared at the screen in the parking lot with cold coffee in the cup holder and felt the thing he used to feel at 3 a.m. In another life, the click when scattered dots turn into a shape. Interval, still 4 days, radius, tightening, porch selection, 3 shared traits. He circled 2 houses on the east side for Friday night, 2 candidates. 60% on the first, 30 on the second. 10% for something he hadn't thought of, because you always leave 10% for that. Then he did the dumbest, smart thing of his adult life. He went inside and told the dispatcher he'd take all the east side runs. Friday. Everyone. Personally, he did not tell Luca. He did not tell Sergeant Vance, whose email was in his phone. He did not tell the group chat with 58 people in it, some of whom had children and hips that don't heal fast. He told nobody, because a man who has been trained to run quiet operations does not always notice when quiet has stopped being a tool and started being a habit. That is his flaw, wearing a cape. Thursday night, 8:20 p. The shop is slammed. 4 phones, 2 ovens, Luca doing the thing where he holds the receipt paper in his teeth. An order comes in for Friday, pre-order. 2 larges, address on Wyeth Street. Wyeth Street was one of Ezra's 2 circles. He read the ticket twice. Then he did what he always did, because he is thorough, and thorough is why he is alive. He checked the callback number against the POS history. The system pulled it up. The same number had ordered before, once. 3 weeks before any of this started. Not to Wyeth, not to Kessler, not to Prather. To 1140 Bellwether Court, apartment 3C. Ezra stopped breathing for about a second and a half. That is his building. That is his floor. That is the apartment 2 doors down from his own. A unit that had been empty since March. The whole map resorted itself in his head like a deck being cut. Hit number 1. 14 days ago, first incident, the one he'd logged as random. Alley side of a duplex on Corliss. Corliss Street is 1 block from Iron Grade Kickboxing. Knox trains at the gym on Ezra's block. Knox drives past Ezra's parking spot 4 times a week. Knox has been looking at the same beat-up gray hatchback with the delivery light on the roof and the pizza bags in the back seat for months. Ezra knew this next part, the way you know a floor is about to give. Hit number 1 was never random. Hit number 1 was aimed. Knox had picked a first target on purpose. The pizza guy from his own block. The quiet one. The one who never made eye contact in the stairwell. The one he'd decided was the softest man on the street. Knox had ordered pizza to an empty apartment 3 weeks before to check something. To see who'd come. To see how the guy walked. To time him. The whole spree. 6 drivers, 4 streets. 2 weeks of ruined nights. Was the leftovers of a plan that had been built around Ezra Holland from the beginning. And it had missed him. It had missed him because on their first real attempt, on a porch numbered 6 in a log nobody had read, the driver they got instead of him happened to back down the steps normally, and the game got fun, and Knox got distracted by how easy the rest of the world was. 2 idiots had been saved from their own opening night by pure luck, and they had spent that luck on 8 other people. Ezra put the ticket down on the counter. His hands were completely steady. That is not a figure of speech. A girl at the register named Priya watched them and told people about it for a year. "Luca," he said. Kill the ovens for 2 minutes. I need to show you something. I got 12 tickets. 2 minutes. Something in his voice made Luca turn the flame down. Ezra opened the laptop on the prep table and turned it around. 14 days, 9 incidents. 4 streets. A column for porch light status. A column for tip amount. Photos of the blue gym bag. From hit 3, 3 angles. With a ruler in frame, because of course there was a ruler in frame. Luca read it the way people read an X-ray of their own chest. When he got to the bottom, he did not say anything for a long moment. Then he said, very quietly, in a voice nobody in that shop had ever heard him use, "How long?" 2 weeks. Marcus got knocked off a step on Tuesday. I know. Dante is 19. He called me crying, I know. You had all this on Tuesday. I had most of it. Luca put both hands flat on the prep table, flour puffed up. And you sat on it. I wanted it airtight. If we go loud with half of it, they hear about it. They change streets, they change hours. And then it takes 6 months and 6 more drivers. So instead, it took 2 weeks and 2 drivers, and you got to be right. Ezra did not answer. There was no answer. That is the only honest thing in the whole exchange. Luca picked up his phone. His hands were not steady. He was 54 and furious, and typing with 2 fingers. You map like a Marine, he said. Now we fight like a neighborhood. And he hit send. 1 send. The entire log. Spreadsheet, photos, incident list. The callback number, the POS history, went 3 places at once. To Sergeant Ola Vance, night shift, East Side. To Dane Ackerman, owner of Iron Grade Kickboxing, whose pinned statement was still sitting on his page like a loaded gun. And to the group chat, all 58. The chat went quiet for 11 seconds. 58 people reading at the same time. Then, it did not go quiet again for 2 days. Here is what 1 send does when it lands in the right 3 inboxes. Friday, 10:40 in the morning. Iron Grade Kickboxing, 3rd floor walk-up. 40 people in the noon class warming up, ropes slapping. That specific gym smell. Pre-workout powder, cheap cologne, and the sour ghost of 100 hand wraps. Dane Ackerman had spent his Thursday night doing something very simple. He pulled the frame from the viral clip with the hoodie in it. He noted the timestamp. Then he pulled his own door check-in logs for that night and looked at which fobs had swiped out at 11:52 p.m. and which 2 members had been photographed 20 minutes later on a lobby camera 2 streets away. 2 names. He suspended both memberships at 8:03 a.m. and posted about it at 8:04. No names, just 2 memberships suspended pending charges. We teach kickboxing. We don't teach this. Anybody who thinks the gym protects them from the neighborhood is at the wrong gym. Knox Tidwell had not read it. Knox does not read. Knox posts. He came up the stairs at 10:40, with his gym bag on his shoulder, and his fob out and 40 people behind the glass. And he swiped, and the little light on the reader went red. He swiped again, red. Yo, Dane. Reader's broke. The class had stopped skipping rope. That is a sound you notice. 40 ropes going, then 30, then none. Dane came to the glass and did not open the door. It's not broke, Knox. What? You know what? Knox laughed. It cracked in the middle. Bro. Over a hoodie? Over Dante. Over Marcus. Over the other 7. Dane's voice through the glass was flat as a floor. You put it on the internet. You did the hard part for me. I'll pay the dues. I'll pay a year. Don't come back. Knox Tidwell stood in a stairwell holding a gym bag, in a building where he had been somebody for 4 years. On the wrong side of a door, in front of 40 people who had all just quietly turned to watch. Nobody said anything to him. That was the worst part. A guy he'd sparred with 100 times pulled his phone up and started filming, and Knox saw him do it and could not say a single word about it. Because Knox had spent 2 years teaching that room that filming people was funny. He got exactly what he had taught. That clip. 31 seconds. Red light. Cracked voice. The walk back down. Went out on the gym's own security feed within an hour. Because Dane pulled it and sent it to Sergeant Vance. And somebody at some point sent it to somebody else. And the internet is a machine that does one thing very well. Knox called Bodie from his car and screamed for 4 minutes about loyalty. Then he said, "Friday's still on." And Bodie, who had already been thinking about it since 8:04 a.m., said, Yeah, okay. He looked over his shoulder. Second thing that one send did. Luca's point-of-sale system was 11 years old and held together with hope. There was an update he'd been putting off for a year because it cost money and downtime, and he hated both. He installed it Thursday night at 1 a.m., alone, with the chairs, on the tables, on the phone, with a support tech in another time zone. The update had a flag rule. You mark a number, and any order from that number auto-forwards a copy of the ticket to whatever email you want. The second it's placed. Luca marked 1 number. Third thing, Marcus's dash cam. His daughter had installed it in 2022. He had never once looked at the footage, because who does? Sergeant Vance asked for the card on Thursday afternoon and watched it Thursday night with a coffee going cold. 11 minutes before Marcus got shoved off that step, a car pulls in 2 spaces back and sits with its lights off. The plate is legible for 4 full seconds. The car is a 2014 sedan. It is registered to a woman named Roberta Lancaster, age 59, who works in medical billing and has never had so much as a parking ticket. Vance called her Friday morning because Vance is thorough. Bodie Lancaster, 24 years old, a grown man with a job and a beard, got his car keys taken away by his mother at the kitchen table at 11:15 a.m., and the sentence she used, which he repeated to a friend, who repeated it to a cousin, who put it in the group chat by 2, was, "You will not use my car to scare working people. Give them here." The chat celebrated that for a full day. Somebody made a graphic. A nurse named Yolanda wrote, "Mom of the Year," and it got 104 thumbs up in a chat with 58 people in it, which tells you something about how many people were showing it to their spouses. Bodie had to get a ride to Friday's ambush. Sit with that image for the rest of this story. Friday, 7:05 p.m. Luca's Slice House. Sergeant Ola Vance stood in the back by the walk-in, with her arms crossed, and did not take the offered slice, and then took it anyway. Say it back to me, she said. Ezra said it back. 2 candidate porches. Wyeth is the one. Pre-orders already placed for 9:40. And you're the driver. I'm the driver. No. Sergeant. No. I put an officer in the jacket. Your officer doesn't know the route, doesn't know the bag, doesn't walk like a driver. And they've watched drivers for 2 months. Ezra's voice never went up. Not once. They'll read it from the car. You'll get nothing. And they'll move to another city and do it there. Vance looked at him for a long time. You were something before this, she said. Weren't you? I was a Marine. Uh-huh. What kind? The kind that says I was a Marine. Vance exhaled through her nose. You do not touch anybody unless they touch you first. If it goes sideways, you get behind the car and you let me do my job. And that camera on your chest runs the whole time. It's been running for 2 weeks. I know. I've watched 9 hours of it. She took a bite of the slice. You memorize porch lights. Yes, ma'am. That's a strange hobby. It's not a hobby. Luca set up the laptop on the prep table like it was mission control, which it absolutely was. Body cam feed on the left, POS on the right, group chat on his phone. 41 people watching the shop's own dot on a map, because the drivers had all decided to stay near their phones that night without anybody asking them to. At 9:12 p.m., the POS chimed. 2 large pies, extra pepperoni, 20% tip in the app. Address, 1417 Wyeth. Callback, the flagged number. The ticket auto-forwarded to Sergeant Vance's inbox at the exact second Knox Tidwell hit place order on a burner phone from a parked car, and the beautiful, stupid, perfect thing is that he watched the confirmation screen and felt clever. 60%, Luca said quietly. 60%, Ezra agreed and picked up the bag. Wyeth Street at 9:38 p.m. A dog 2 houses down. A television flickering blue behind somebody's blinds. The smell of a leaf fire somebody hadn't gotten a permit for. The porch at 1417 was dark, unscrewed a quarter turn. Sergeant Vance's unmarked unit sat 2 houses down with a second unit around the corner on Hobart. Bodycam feed live. Luca's laptop showing it to a man in an apron with flour on his watch band, and 4 drivers standing behind him, and a 19-year-old named Dante who had asked to be there. Ezra parked at the curb, killed the engine, sat for 2 seconds, and did the thing he does at every red light and every stop sign and every single delivery of his life. He looked at the exits, gate on the left, hedge on the right, 6 steps up, rail on both sides, walkway concrete, dry, small crack running diagonal at the 3rd slab. He got out with the bag in his left hand. 2 shapes were already in position. One at the door frame, one at the rail. They had rehearsed it 7 times. Ezra had rehearsed it a few more times than that, in a different decade, on a different continent. He climbed the steps. Wrong house. Pizza boy delivery fee goes to use tonight. Drop the bag and the tips. Same line, same volume. Louder, actually. Knox had been saying it in his head all week, and this time he did not wait for the bag. Because Knox Tidwell had spent 2 months working a head kick on a heavy bag in a garage. A right high round kick he'd landed once in an amateur fight. and watched 400 times since, and he had been putting a specific face on that bag. And the face belonged to the guy from his block with the beat-up hatchback. He threw it. It was a good kick. That is important. In a ring, with a referee and a bell and a man standing in front of him, it would have been a highlight. There was no man standing in front of him. Ezra stepped down and across. The same step. The exact step from the porch 2 weeks ago, the one nobody in this story ever recognized. Down and across, off the line, inside the arc of the kick, where a high kick has nothing left but a leg in the air and a hip with no support under it. Knox's shin passed over Ezra's shoulder and hit nothing but night air, and by then Ezra was already past it, chest to Knox's chest, weight settled, one hand low. He took the standing leg. That was all. A hook behind the ankle, a shift of his own weight forward. The whole thing timed to the half-second. When a kicker has 100% of his mass on one foot and zero balance in reserve. Knox Tidwell went down on the walkway. Flat, controlled, guided, his back taking the concrete before his head could. Because Ezra had a fistful of his shirt the entire way down and never let go of it. The pizza bag was still level in Ezra's left hand. Level. 2 large pies. He had not tilted it a single degree. Knox tried to buck. Ezra rolled his own weight to the hip and pinned the wrist, not twisted, pinned. The forearm laid flat against the concrete, with body weight on it, which is not painful and is not negotiable. Knox's other hand grabbed at a sleeve and found nothing, because the sleeve was not where it had been a second before. "Stop moving," Ezra said. He was not out of breath. "You're not hurt. Stay still and you won't be." Bodie Lancaster was 3 steps into his flank when it ended. That's the whole thing. He was mid-commitment, shoulders forward, hands coming up, exactly where the pincer said he should be, and the pincer had nothing at the center of it anymore. His friend was on the ground. The man on top of his friend was looking directly at him, over the pinned shoulder, calm as a clock. Bodie Lancaster made the best decision of his entire life. He sat down on the porch steps and put his hands on his knees where they could be seen. I'm sitting down. I'm sitting down." "Good," Ezra said. "Keep them where they are." 3 cameras had all of it. The body cam on Ezra's chest, 4 feet from Knox's face. The doorbell camera at 1419 next door, which the owner had installed in September and forgotten about. And Knox's own phone propped on the mailbox with the red dot burning, because he had wanted this on the internet. He got what he wanted. A flashlight beam came across the walkway like a curtain dropping. Sheriffs? No. Police. Nobody move. Vance's voice, and behind it 2 more sets of boots on concrete and porch lights coming on down the whole street one after another. Pop, pop, pop. 4 houses, 6 houses, a woman in a bathrobe on her steps at 1421 saying, "Oh my God," into her phone, and a man across the street who just said out loud, to nobody, "No way." Ezra released the wrist. The second the first officer's hand was on Knox's shoulder, not 1 second after. Not 1 ounce of extra pressure. He stood up, stepped back 3 feet with his hands open at his sides, and the very first thing he did, before he said a word to police, before he looked at Knox, was reach out and steady the pizza bag on the rail where he'd set it, because a paper cup of soda had started to slide. Muscle memory catches falling things. It doesn't ask permission. Then he looked down at Knox Tidwell, face up on a walkway with a cracked third slab, a man who had shouted the same 8 words at 9 strangers in 14 nights. Ezra Holland said it at delivery window volume. Pleasant, almost friendly. Delivery fee goes to you. The receipt, and he pulled the log out of his jacket. Not a phone, paper. 41 pages. Printed at the shop an hour earlier. Because Luca said a judge likes paper and a rubber band around it. And he handed it to Sergeant Vance, right there on the porch, with the body cam still running, and the doorbell camera still running, and Knox's own phone still running. 9 incidents, Ezra said. 14 days. Dates, times, addresses, order values, tip amounts, and porch light status on all 9. Vance took the rubber band off. Page 11 is the gym bag from HIT. 3 angles with a scale reference. Page 19 is the interval analysis. Page 26 is the callback number, which is the same number that placed tonight's order at 9:12. I know, Vance said. It's in my inbox. It came in as he was typing it. Knox's head came up off the concrete. What? Your order, Vance said. Emailed itself to me while you placed it. Luca had printed that too. The POS printout, 17 inches of thermal paper. And Vance read it out loud on that porch in front of 8 neighbors and 2 cameras. Because she had been at this 19 years, and she knew exactly what she was doing. Order 4471, Tuesday the 4th, 1140 Bellwether Court, apartment 3C. She looked up. That's a vacant unit. That's my building, Ezra said. Order 4622, Corliss. Order 4890, Kessler. Order 5013, Prather. Order 5288, Wyeth. She let the paper hang, same number every time. You called your own ambushes in, son. From a phone you bought with a card. Knox said a word we're not going to repeat. And the pizza boy thing, Ezra said. He tapped the camera on his chest. This has a time-stamped overlay. Bottom right corner. It's been on for every one of these. He said it without any heat at all, which is what made it land. Your face. My timestamp. 9 files. By Sunday afternoon, 400,000 people had watched 31 seconds of a high-kick meeting, nothing. By Monday, it was 2 million. The clip everyone shared was not the takedown. That surprised people. The clip that went everywhere was 6 seconds long. The moment after the police arrived, when a delivery driver reached out with 2 fingers and straightened a sliding soda cup on a rail before he did anything else. Somebody captioned it. Bro protected the order. Somebody else captioned it. That's a man who has done this before. Both were right. Here is what happened after. Item by item. Because you were promised the whole bill, and you're going to get the whole bill. Knox Tidwell and Bodie Lancaster were charged on 9 counts, and the counts that broke them were not the assaults. It was premeditation. 3 weeks of burner phone orders placed in advance to addresses they had scouted. Is not kids and cold pizza. A public defender told Knox that in a hallway, and Knox laughed at him. and then read the paperwork and stopped laughing. They took a plea on the premeditated counts. Convicted, both of them. Restitution came first, and this is the part the drivers still talk about. The judge, a woman in her 50s whose own kid delivers sandwiches downtown 3 days a week, a fact she mentioned exactly once, quietly. In a sentence she did not elaborate on, set a condition: every dollar of stolen tips repaid to every driver before anything else. Not to the pizzerias. To the drivers, by name, $41 to Dante, $19 to Marcus, $33, $22, $60, $15, $28, and $11 to 6 other people, one of whom had quit driving and had to be tracked down at a warehouse job to be handed an envelope with $11 in it. That man cried in a parking lot over $11. And if you don't understand why, you have never had somebody take something from you and get away with it. Iron-grade kickboxing paid for driver safety lights on the east side. 60 of them, motion-activated, installed free on any porch that wanted one, with a sign-up sheet at 3 pizzerias. Now, be honest about that. Dane Ackerman put his logo on the sign-up sheet. There was a press photo. There was a caption about community. Half of that was penance, and half of it was marketing. And this story is going to give it half credit, and not a point more. Because 60 porches on the east side got lit. And a lit porch is a lit porch no matter who paid for it. Luca's group chat stopped being a group chat. 3 pizzerias share it now. It has a name and a rule sheet and a rotating list of who's checking in on whom. If a driver doesn't tap clear within 90 seconds of a delivery on a flagged address, 2 phones light up. Sergeant Vance is still in it. So is the retired mail carrier who knows every screen door on the east side by sound. They called it the Porch Light List. It has 310 members now. And Ezra Holland? Ezra Holland passed his pharmacology midterm 11 days after that porch. 88%. He studied for it the way he studies for everything. Flashcards on the steering wheel at red lights. 1 card per light. 41 lights between the shop and the east side on a Friday. He did not do a single interview. 3 outlets asked. A man with a podcast offered him money. He said the same 9 words to all of them. I'd rather not. The drivers did most of it. Which is not even true, and he knew it wasn't true. And he said it anyway. He went back to work the following Tuesday. That's it. That's the whole aftermath. 2 million people watched him end a fight in 1 second, and he clocked in on Tuesday at 4:45 p.m. and ran 14 deliveries and came back smelling like garlic with a receipt roll in his pocket. He asked Luca for one thing. He asked for the east side runs. Permanently. All of them. Luca said, why? Ezra said, because I know every porch on it. And here is the small, quiet, best fact in this entire story. The porch lights on his route stay on now, not because of the 60 free motion lights, though those helped. Because people learned. Because a woman at 1421 Wyeth, who watched it happen from her steps in a bathrobe, now flips her porch switch every single night at 8 o'clock and has told 9 neighbors to do the same. Because the guy at 1419 with the doorbell camera puts a folding chair out front on Fridays. Because the East Side found out, in one loud Friday, that the person walking up their steps in the dark with their dinner is a person. 9 houses on Kessler, 14 on Prather, the whole run of Wyeth, lit. So let me talk to you directly for a second, and then I'll let you go. Tonight, somewhere, a porch light is out, and a driver is sitting in a car at the curb, looking at a dark set of steps and a paid order, doing math you have never once had to do in your life. He is 30 seconds from deciding whether his kid's dinner is worth walking up there. The ask here is small, and it is concrete, and it costs you nothing. Turn the light on every time. It's 4 cents of electricity. Tip in the app and tip in cash. Because one of those goes through a system and one of those goes into a pocket. And only one of them can't be taken back by an algorithm at 2 a.m. And learn your driver's name. Say it once. Say it out loud. Because the person carrying your dinner up your steps in the dark may be carrying a lot more than that. A skill set nobody in your neighborhood knows about. A night school dream and a pharmacology midterm on Tuesday. And sometimes, in a spiral notebook in a glove box, the entire case file that a whole neighborhood has been waiting on. Knox Tidwell spent 2 months practicing a kick on a bag with a man's face on it. He was so busy training for a fight that he never once considered that his target had already survived one. The loudest man in the room is telling you exactly how afraid he is. The quiet one is not telling you anything, and that is the only reason you should ever be careful. Quiet strength doesn't announce itself. It just shows up on time, sets the bag down gently, and asks you once to walk away. Now here's the argument. And both sides of it are real, so pick one and defend it below. Ezra built a 2-week case quietly, while drivers 7 and 8 got ambushed. He got a conviction that will hold up. Dates, intervals, a paper trail, 9 airtight files, 2 men who will never do this again anywhere. But Dante got robbed on his 4th shift, and Marcus got knocked off a step at 51 years old. And both of those nights happened while a spreadsheet was getting 1 more column. Was the airtight log worth their bad nights? Or should he have gone loud after hit 1, tipped everybody off, saved 2 people, and maybe let 2 guys walk free to do it in the next city? Tell us below. Be honest. If this story hit you, subscribe now. Share it with someone who respects quiet strength, and tell us in the comments which moment hit you the hardest. We will see you for the next story. It is already waiting.